confirmed today that Nicho Hynes has suffered a complete syndesmosis rupture plus a tibia fracture to his left ankle. That is absolutely disastrous news for the Sharks. Francis, can you tell us what a complete syndesmosis rupture actually means?
Yeah, the syndesmosis is the joint above the ankle, so it's known as a high ankle sprain. If we look at a little model of the ankle that I happen to have handy, we can see down along the bottom here is the ankle ligaments on the outside. Turn it around, we've got the ankle ligaments on the inside. If we look at the front, you've got your main bone, your tibia, and the fibula, and this blue tape represents the ligaments that hold that together. And so you can see it's above the ankle, so it's called the high ankle. The ankle joint is actually down here. So when you get a force of compression pushing this dome, which is known as the talar dome, upwards, it wants to spread these two apart, and that damages the front ligament holding those two bones together and the back ligament. So it's graded in grade 1, minor ligament tears, grade 2, moderate ligament tears, and grade 3, you can cut it. So now it's
oh God,
completely ruptured or snapped, same thing. That means it's broken right through. So what that does is create instability between the tibia and the fibula and instability in the ankle. So it then needs to be surgically repaired. The old method was to put 2 screws through. The new method is to put what they call a tightrope wire through. And I would imagine that, the surgery tomorrow for Nicho would be the tightrope, but I don't really know. He also has a tibial fracture. If we go back to the model, and this is the tibia, and it comes down and forms the inside ankle bone. So somewhere along there, the forces involved have cracked or chipped the bone, and that's known as a fracture or a break. Same thing as we've discussed previously on the podcast. So that's it. It's a nasty injury. Yes, surgery tomorrow. Usually 6 weeks non-weight bearing in a boot, and then ranging between what the surgeon's protocols are. Touch weight bearing with crutches, partial weight bearing with crutches in the boot, and out of the boot to full weight bearing and on with his rehab. So, yeah, it's a significant injury and it'll take a fair bit of time and effort to get back. Now, they're suggesting perhaps 8 weeks, the media is saying. That would suggest to me that the tibial break or fracture is a minor one. Otherwise, it would be longer. But to get back to playing within that time would be a great effort. Professionals perhaps can do it. Everyday park players and everyday people can probably take 4 or 5 months. So, it's a big challenge and shocking news.
How do you think how do players get this sort of injury, and how do we think it happened?
Well, I'm led to believe that at training, Nicho was practicing taking bombs, jumped high to get one, landed heavily on I'm not sure which ankle it is, and compressed it and rolled it at the same time. Sometimes we see this syndesmosis or high ankle sprain in a drop tackle as well. Players drop down, twist the ankle, and the player falls forward. The other common way is if someone is being tackled and a player falls on the back on the heel of the ankle joint and forces that ball of the joint up and splits the bones apart. So it's usually quite forceful, but a jump and land on one leg, if it's an awkward landing, can do it. And, unfortunately it has for Nicho. Yep.
It's similar injury to what Tommy Turbo had in 2017 I was reading up on. He had something similar and was an 8 weeks return. It's quite common in the NFL, this injury too, I think. A couple of...
It is a common injury. It's more readily diagnosed now. It's recognised with some physical tests on the sideline and then confirmed with MRI and CT. Can be confirmed with X-ray, but the specific grading of the severity usually goes to MRI to work out whether surgery is needed. Yeah.
They knew straight away, though, didn't they, yesterday or Monday?
Well, they usually have a pretty good idea, but you still need to confirm it.
Yeah, right. All right, so what can go wrong with the surgery for Nicho?
The surgery goes well. You can be unfortunate and have post-operation infection. You can have failure of the tightrope or failure of the end buttons, or if you're too aggressive on your rehabilitation, you can develop a stress fracture across where the bone, where the bone has been drilled through to put the wire through. So that calcifies over 6 or 7 weeks and heals up, but it's still
So
a
that's
little
if
bit
they
of
rush
weak.
him. Is that if they rush him back too quickly, Francis, and they have him working too hard?
That's correct. The protocol is, as I said, non-weight bearing for 6 weeks normally. Each surgeon will have their own protocol, and it'll be varied upon the person's fitness ability and the severity of other tissues injured around it. And if they rush back and put too much stress through it, it can load that healing area and it can develop a stress fracture. So then that means you have to sort of go back into the boot non-weight bearing for a little while and sort of start again. Sometimes the tie wire or the screws can fail. That's quite rare, but generally the other rare complication is development of adhesions, and balls of tissue develop if it's not well rehabilitated and limit the ankle movement on a permanent basis, which could necessitate further surgery to clean it up. But they're rare things rather than common problems. Yeah. Generally, it's a very successful surgery, but that's things that can go wrong with it.
So you mentioned he's off the weight bearing. So what does this mean for his right? So it's a different ankle. So his left ankle has got the syndesmosis, and he's got a right ankle calf strain that I guess has been lingering for a while. Is this helpful for his calf injury, or is it because it is off it? Or is he just going to be doing a bunch of calf raises for the next 6 weeks?
Well, when you're non-weight bearing, that means your non-operated leg takes a higher load. Mm-hmm. On crutches or an ortho scooter, you can decrease the load. So a scooter that you kneel on and you see people pedaling around on sometimes in the shopping.
Should we expect to see Nicho pedaling around on a scooter around the Shire, Francis?
Maybe, because on the flat they're excellent. They save the wear and tear on people's armpits and arms. But the actual calf itself, I think it'll be an ideal time for him to, fully rehabilitate it and get great strength in it. He's able to perform on it at training, so it's not hindering him in everyday activity. So I think he'll be able to stretch it and strengthen it. And his ability to rehabilitate his right leg and the rest of his body 7 or 10 days after surgery is very high. They can cross-train a lot. Can't do much in the way of training on the left ankle. It'll all be single leg training and upper body training and heavy weights. And then he has a challenge when the time comes to work with the surgeon's protocol, the doctor, the physio, and trainers to work along and steadily progress. One of the biggest issues is when he gets to that stage is constant swelling over 2 or 3 months. Once he starts training again, the foot and ankle will want to swell all the time. So he'll need to have regular ice protocols and regimes after every training and every playing. And he'll have to more than likely have a compression garment to wear a lot after training and playing for several weeks once he's back playing. Yeah.
Assuming that he does play again this season, if he chooses not to play this season, let's just say the Sharks, heaven forbid, touch wood, go on a 5-match losing streak now. Yeah. And the decision is that, maybe we shouldn't play Nicho. Does that improve his injury return, or does it not make much of a difference?
I don't think it makes much of a difference because you're not under the pressure to get back to a particular game, you should still push hard to get your rehab done consecutively and as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you run the risk of developing thickness and adhesions because you're taking it easy, and that limits your performance later on. Getting back from these injuries, you should get 100% agility, strength, and movement, unless you have complications, which we talked about before, that can hold you up. And that doesn't, the progression for a professional doesn't slow down because you haven't got a game to get to. You want to get through that and get back to off-season training. Yeah.
So if anything, it might actually help him that he's got this goal of the 9 weeks till the final series to get back on the field.
Well, certainly be a target that, as long as when the surgeon goes in and finds what the specific damage is and how the repair goes, it'll be a real target, and they'll have every minute of the day to work at it.
They can tell a lot more once they actually get in and operate, though, can't they? They can, once they actually get in and look, they tend to know just a bit more, don't they?
The orthopedic surgeons I've spoken to said it gives them a lot more information once they get in and see the extent of the damage and the positions. Even though you can get 3D CTs to look at the bones, MRIs to get every detail, there's still a little bit of unknown until they actually get in and see the exact, detail of the injury.
All right, got it. All right, well, let's make the other boys a bit larger now. Francis, that was an excellent synopsis. Boys, did I cover everything with my questions on poor Francis then, or is there anything else you think you want to ask him, or we move into the outlook on Nicho's career?
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy too. Just with that, Francis, obviously Nicho's a right-footed kicker and left is the one that he's broken. Where's that sort of put him coming back from it? Like, is it pretty much null and void, or is it, he's got a weight bear on his left to then kick right-footed, or is it just, you're just going back to running? Like, you're the runner of the ball now more than the kicker.
No, I think to get back to playing, the agility, the jumping, the landing and springing off the foot, and the leg strength in the glutes, the quads will be, all the muscles of the legs will be strong as ever before. And I can't anticipate that it would limit his kicking game at all. Perhaps in his early return, he might not do as much kicking duties in the first few games. But similar to we talked about when he injured his calf, that some kicking duties might go to Trindle or to Atkinson. But, in the long run, it's not a limiting injury in the sense of ongoing function. You should recover 100%, particularly at this level. You have a younger player playing park football or an older player playing park football. They don't have the ability to do the extensive rehab, so there may be some limitations on their ongoing function, but not at this level.
Yeah. All right, what do we think it means for his career? Chris, do you want to answer that one for us?
Whoa, that's a big crystal ball. I suppose the closest one I've seen bouncing back from injuries this season I was going to bring up as an example is Ryan Pappenhausen, where he's had some horrific injuries. And obviously a couple of months ago, he fractured that tibia, but that's where the plate was sitting after he had surgery. So they're a bit more happy. That's where it so that one sort of concerns me a little bit. But, Nicho's a young, pretty athletic guy. And it's a pretty common injury like Francis touched on before. And you said, Boldo, as well. Like in the NFL, you got 350-pound men land on the back of your ankle, so it happens quite often. They've obviously started to rule out the hip drop in the NFL now, but I don't think it's dire for this season. But I don't think anything's going to stop him from the future.
Yeah.
Lads, how's the social support been for Nicho before we get into your social segment?
Yeah, mate, it's been pretty. Fans are pretty gutted. There's been a few hecklers that you get who have been shut down pretty quickly by Nicho supporters, but all around it's just been support. Fans also saying that they think it'll do him the world of good mentally having the time off, not the way that he's gone about getting the time off, but just to be out of the game, get his head right after Origin and just focus on rehabilitation and moving forward with the Sharks.
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelming groundswell of support for you, Nicho Hynes. And look, if you're sitting around doing nothing and you do happen to upon this podcast, you've got a bunch of Sharks fans that are well and truly behind you is just an absolute legend. So we hope we wish you all the success in your return, and we hope you definitely have at least 3 games at the end of the season. Might have to be 4, actually, unfortunately. Might have to be 4 at the end of the season in the finals. We'll see how we go on that front.